today's video, I'm going to show you how you can focus on one thing and one thing only, and how you can achieve a level of mastery in that one thing that is going to be there for you your whole life. You have to figure out the 5 pillars of life: spirituality, health, relationships, money, and pleasures. And the thing is, if you want to achieve full competence and confidence in all these areas of life, you need to focus on one of these areas exclusively for a set period of time, and only that one thing, until you've achieved absolute mastery and excellence in that thing, until you keep going to the next. I'm also going to show you how you can then learn to maintain all these other areas of life once you figure them out with very little effort. First and foremost, let me just mention that spirituality, your spiritual connection, your awareness, your meditative state, these things, that's the most important thing in your life. Without that, without you understanding awareness of yourself, you will not even be able to focus on one thing at the time. It will not be possible. You're gonna be blown around like a bag in the wind, and oh, there's a notification, and oh, there's someone wanting my attention, and hey, there's a hot girl that I want to check out, and hey, and then you're going to be very, very distracted all the time. It's going to be simply impossible for you to lock in and focus 100% of your attention on one thing. In other words, if you don't have that spiritual dimension figured out, you're never going to achieve mastery in any of these areas in life. And if you were to become really obsessed with one of these areas of life and then achieve a level of mastery, it will not feel right. It's going to feel very, very empty unless you have the spiritual foundation figured out. So first and foremost, start meditating. If you're not meditating already, make it a morning practice and an evening practice, and do it every single moment that you're not feeling the way you want to feel. Every single time you feel discomfort of any sort, realize that is a calling for you to get deeper into meditation, to get deeper into the present moment, to let go of the past, to let go of the future, to surrender to this moment, and just be here and be still. And another thing I want to mention is you have an infinite amount of energy. The reason why you can sit and do this all day, seemingly to be deprived of energy, but really what this is you having a tremendous amount of energy. It's just that you're not channeling it out the right way. You're letting all that energy be projected into this virtual reality of you scrolling on your phone and using all your mental power on the act of understanding and comprehending very, very intricate amounts of information in very little time. However, if you learn to relocate the energy from this area to another area of life, you're gonna excel in that area at a tremendous pace. If you have the energy to scroll on your phone, you have the energy to climb Mount Everest. Let's just get that out of the way. If you have the energy to scroll on your phone, you have the energy and the capacity inside of you to become a billionaire. You have the capacity to have the dream life when it comes to your relationships. You have the capacity to get your health in order. You have the capacity to have whatever life that you want. If you have the capacity to look at funny videos, to scroll on your phone, you have more than enough energy to do all these other things that you want. But first you have to learn awareness. You have to learn to become aware of yourself, being aware of yourself. Okay, that is being in a mindful state or in a meditative state. What that allows you to do is to then say to your mind, okay, I know that you have a lot of energy, mind, but instead of spending all that energy on worrying about the past and the potential future outcomes and whatever some celebrity that I don't even know said about their relationship, instead of all that, focus on this one area of my choosing where I lack the most, and then let's put all our attention and focus into that one area and that one area only. And it's very important that you only choose one area at a time. People want too much. They want to have their dream body and the dream relationship and the spiritual foundation of their life and a lot of money and to have all these pleasures. You basically want to have the whole pyramid at the same time. You want 10 different things at the same time. It's never gonna happen. Each one of these building blocks is a full-time job in itself. How are you gonna have 10 full-time jobs at the same time? It's not possible. You can only really have one. If you have 2 full-time jobs, you're probably not really good at any of them. You can only spin 1 plate at a time. However, once that plate starts spinning, it becomes incredibly easy to maintain the spinning of the plate. Now, that is the secret to having a full holistic life, meaning that you have all the areas checked off. You have a spiritual foundation that is, how it's supposed to be. You always have that feeling of inner peace. Then you have, on top of that, you have your health in order. You have maybe gotten rid of your addictions and your bad habits, and you have started to work out in your favorite sport, or maybe you're just going to the gym and you're getting to know this whole world, and you're getting to know your body and how it works and what to eat and what not to eat. Then on top of that, you have your relationships, right? So you have your spiritual foundation together with your health, and now you can go out and you can explore, first and foremost, your relationship with yourself, right? That is the number one thing you need to figure out, meaning, have you cured your anxieties? Have you figured out your self-esteem issues? Are you okay with being in your own company? Everything to do with being in a relationship with yourself, getting to know what you like, what you dislike, your purpose in this life, and so on. And then secondly, your relationship with other people, with strangers, with all these labels that you might be carrying around, such as your relationship with men, your relationship with women, your relationship with people of the opposite sex that you're attracted to, compared to those you're not to, your relationship with your family, with your friends, and so on. Now, once you have your spirituality checked off, you have your health, you have your relationship, now you can look into the avenue of money, of work, of doing something constructive in this world. And this works as an amplifier to the previous 3, right? So if you have more money, you can simply get more out of your current relationships. It's not going to fix relationships, but it's going to get more out of them, right? The same with health. You will have more access to maybe better gyms or better food or whatever. Now, once that is checked off, only then should you look into pleasures. How can you really squeeze out the juice out of different things, maybe explore different countries and try jet ski for the first time or whatever it is for you. Now, the problem is that people start from the top and then they move all the way down. If you start here, right? So if you start here at pleasure, you're gonna run out of money, right? And if you start on money, you're gonna ruin your relationships. And if you start with relationships, eventually you're gonna sacrifice yourself so much that you will feel drained, and it will maybe mean that your health will suffer as a consequence. Like, a lot of therapists actually end up taking their own lives because they're not focusing on themselves first, they're focusing on other people too much. Now, and if you focus on health primary, so a lot of people, they think that like they're doing the right thing if they're just focusing on health. But if you only focus on health, there's going to come a time in your life where the health is inevitably going to be taken away from us by time, and then the only thing you really have is your spiritual awareness, your understanding of these more eternal ideas and concepts that are not concepts, that are really hard to talk about and really are something that you should be exploring on your own, in your own company, right? So it's not even something that you can really effectively communicate through words alone. So, however, if you don't have the spiritual connection and you only have the health, relationships, money, and pleasures, you also might find like a little bit of nihilism and dread around existence in life. And you might feel like, oh, none of it matters, right? Because as time goes on, the health goes down, and you realize that the people are not going to save you in the end of life, and money is also not going to save you. And what are pleasures good for if they're not eternal, if they're only temporary? So all these struggles that we experience, if we only have the top 3, is really just our inner calling for the spiritual, to look into the vertical dimension, the timeless dimension of life. So you're meant for greatness. And I guess this speaks to all 5 of them. Like there's always going to be this background feeling of guilt if you're not getting to your 100% potential in each of these areas. That is always going to be there, and you're never going to get there if your energy and your focus is separated in these different categories throughout the day. So if you wake up in the morning and you're like, hey, I'm going to have a little bit of pleasure today, I'm going to do some work, I'm going to build on my relationships a little bit, then I'm going to work out and make sure that my health is in check, and then I'm going to meditate and have my spiritual connection in order. Well, that sounds really good and all, but that is not effective for you to get to a mastery level in any of these categories. Because to achieve mastery in, say, for example, health is a full-time job. To achieve mastery in relationships is a full-time job. To achieve mastery in spirituality is a full-time job. To achieve mastery in when it comes to work and money is also a full-time job. So how are you going to do 4 or even 5 full-time jobs every single day? It's not possible. All it's going to lead to is a burnout, right? So number 3 is that the energy spent on redirecting your focus goes to waste. Meaning that if you have separated your day-to-day life into these segments of doing, your health and then your relationships and so on, the time in between where you are redirecting your focus from one area to another, that energy is going to go to waste. And that is a lot of energy. We have studies to show that when people get distracted, when they get out of their flow zone, it takes 15 minutes, sometimes even longer, to get back into it. Now that's 15 minutes of unnecessary strain you put on your brain. And that's if you manage to be so effective with your scheduling that it's basically just 4 hours in each of these categories throughout your day. But usually it's more like 30 minutes here, then 15 minutes, then someone calls you, and then, relationships, and then health, and then gym, and then it's basically 100 times that you have to go through this 15-minute gap of refocusing. So that's a lot of wasted energy. And people often underestimate how much energy is actually lost on switching your lane of thought from one place to another. This is very, very strenuous on the brain and takes a tremendous amount of effort. So you would much rather want to focus on each of these categories for up to a couple of years at the time until they're fully locked in and until you can simply just manage them with very, very little time in a sort of a maintenance mode. So another thing to understand is that it takes a lot of time to master something. It takes very, very little time and effort to maintain it, right? So for example, your health, right? So in the beginning, it takes a tremendous amount of effort to learn about macros, to learn about calories, to learn about proper exercises, to learn about anatomy, to learn all these things and to maybe go through injuries and to recover from all these injuries and to learn about rest and sleep and to overcome your addictions and bad habits. And there's so much to health. But once you've figured it out, once you have reached a level of mastery and you've reached a level where you are now confident in yourself, that you know how it works to a sufficient level, meaning 95%, it's never going to be perfect, but it's going to be a place where you are now very satisfied and content with your level of health. Now maintaining it, you can basically do it on autopilot, right? So let's take the gym, for example. In the beginning, it's a full-time job with like, what are you going to eat? How are you going to work out? When are you going to work out? And all these things. Once you've achieved an advanced level in this, you're basically just going to the gym a couple of times a week now, maintaining it. You are already eating right because it's simply part of your habits to eat that way. You know so much about calories that you can basically just see the numbers in front of you when you look at a dish at a dinner table or a product in the store. So all these things become integrated, and just like a machine picks up these informations and can reuse them very fast, the same is with the mind. So basically you can go from spending 70 hours occupied on your health to less than 7 hours per week. And the same goes for money. Like in the beginning, let's say that you're doing day trading. In the beginning, you're going to spend a lot of time learning from your mistakes and learning about markets and different strategies when it comes to day trading. But then after a couple of years, once you've achieved mastery, now you can manage your whole portfolio and maintain your net worth with a couple of minutes every single day. With relationships, the same thing. When we have to find ourselves, go through shadow work, go through all these different things, figure out what we're meant to do in this world, this takes a lot of time. Overcoming social anxiety takes a lot of time. Learning different social skills takes a lot of time. Building relationships that are meaningful for us takes a lot of time. But once we've done all these things once, it becomes incredibly easy to maintain all these things. So for example, your best friend, right? It takes a lot of time to build that connection and that relationship with a best friend of yours. But then once you've done it, you can basically just text them once a year and they're still gonna be your best friend, right? And even if you were to lose all these things, meaning that you were to lose all your money, you were to lose all the connections you had with all the people in your life, and you were to lose your health, obviously not to the full extent, but something that is recoverable, like getting a disease or losing your gains in the gym or something like that. Now, if that were to happen, now because you've already built up all that competence and confidence once, getting back in shape, building new relationships and getting your net worth back is gonna take way less time than it did the first time. It's gonna be a fraction of the time. When it comes to relationships, starting new relationships, once you figure out yourself and you've overcome your insecurities and your self-esteem issues, now you can do whatever you did before and it took you a couple of years, you can do that in seconds. You can basically just have a strong, meaningful relationship with someone because you already have that vulnerability and that openness towards them. Your reading skills are much better. You can tell what a person is feeling and thinking, and you have that empathy and all these things that you picked up from learning it once, right? So, and the same goes for your spiritual development, right? So you want to focus on that first. It's very important that you look at this as your number one priority if it isn't already. Because without spirituality, none of these things matters. Spirituality, your connection with your true self, like, so there's the relationship with yourself in this earthly level where you are this personality and you have these likes and dislikes and you have these strengths and you have these talents and so on. But then there's also this relationship with your true self, which is like this awareness that you're also part of, right? So you're both. Now that is spirituality, and it's becoming familiar with the present moment, becoming the observer of yourself and not just identified with yourself. Now that is, for obvious reasons, the foundation of everything else. That is the enjoyment behind playing the game, and the top 4 levels is the game itself. So, and I just want to mention another one. So the 4th reason why you shouldn't focus on more than one thing at a time is that you will never gain a full compounding effect of momentum if you focus on several different areas at the same time. And getting into that momentum is incredibly powerful, and it's going to propel you towards your goals so much faster. We can take a very small example, such as editing a video, right? So if you were to make a video every single year you would make a video, you would have to get back into the editing of the software. You would have to almost relearn all these things again and again. Now, if you were to make videos every single day, you would be so familiar with the editing software that you would basically just know it by heart, right? And everything would just be prepared for you. The layout from the previous day is going to sit there completely ready. You're going to be more and more optimized. You're going to have an easier time remembering shortcuts, maybe shortcodes too, but shortcuts in the editing software. And everything is just going to compound more and more. And the same with the output. If you're looking to build an audience, that is obviously going to grow much faster and much steadier and in an exponential way if you do it every single day, if you do it consecutively every single day, compared to doing it once a year or maybe in periods without being consistent. So consistency gives you that compounding effect. You will win, you will succeed, you will do very well in all these areas of life. However, you have to focus on one area at a time. Every time that you pick up your phone, ask yourself, which one of these 5 areas are you serving right now, right? And unless you've already figured out your spirituality, your health, your relationships, and your money, you should not be focusing on your pleasures. You should not be focusing on scrolling on Instagram or, having fun. It sounds brutal when you say it like that. Don't have fun. And people are conditioned to have fun. Have a little bit of fun, let loose. Remember that you're human too on this journey, and have vacations and so on. But the thing is, you're not gonna fully have fun unless you have figured out the foundation, the 4 prior steps. As I said before, if you're gonna focus on pleasures, you're gonna run out of money. If you focus on money, you're gonna ruin your relationships. If you focus on your relationships, you're gonna ruin your health. If you focus on health, you're gonna ruin your potential to be spiritual, right? You're gonna miss out on the whole idea behind this universe, which is for you to find your true self, for you to discover the timeless, eternal being in the present moment. So again, you figure out one, look at it like maybe spinning plates, right? So I think I like this analogy of spinning plates. So in the beginning, when you're trying to spin a plate, it's gonna be very hard to make it spin. But then, and obviously I'm not gonna learn to spin plates right now, but if I did, it would probably take me, I don't know, maybe 48 hours, right? Let's say it's gonna take me 48 hours to learn to spin this properly. But once it's spinning, it's gonna take very little effort for me to keep it spinning. In fact, while it's spinning, I might even be able to keep it spinning and then maybe start spinning another plate over here, or maybe start doing something else with my other hand. And if I were to make a plate spin in one hand and a plate spin in the other hand, well, that would take me maybe 100 years. I don't even think it would be possible for me to learn to spin this with one hand while trying to spin this with the other hand. And then I'm trying a little bit over here, and then I'm like, oh, I also have this hand, and oh, if only I could just focus my full attention and energy on learning to do it on one hand, and then once I've learned that, and this one keeps spinning and I can maintain it, then I can focus on the other, because I've already learned a lot from this process alone. Right. So this is very, very important. I started with understanding my own spiritual connection, right? So the way I see my life is that when I had this corporate job and I was doing this whole thing with wanting to become the advertisement director and all those things, what was going on then is that I was focusing on the money, I was focusing on the work and the career, and I didn't have my relationships in order, I didn't have my health in order, I didn't have my spirituality in order. And what that meant was that my relationships fell apart, my health was not the best. This is where I started to age in a very fast way. I started to lose hair and get wrinkles, in my early 20s for no reason. And obviously I didn't have that spiritual connection, right? So once I discovered that, I was like, wow, this is what I've been missing all along, right? This and this don't matter. In fact, whatever I had tried to do about my relationships and my health didn't even matter because I didn't have the spiritual foundation. That's when I started to focus on the spiritual foundation, and that has been my #1 priority ever since. And that has done more for my health, my relationships, my money, and the pleasures that I get out of life than anything else. What you don't want is to be someone who's just focusing on money and work, right? Because then you're gonna be like that very popular story about the guy who, gains the whole world but realizes that he or she is completely alone, don't have anyone to share all these good memories with, and they even feel like they sacrifice their health in the journey to get there. So that is a wasted life. That is wasted effort. That does not give you anything. If all you have is money without having your relationships and health and your spiritual foundation, it's a wasted life. That's something to realize. In fact, if you only have money, relationships, and health, that's also in some ways a wasted life. This might be hard for some people to understand, but if you don't have that spiritual understanding and that inner peace, that ease about yourself in everything you do, well, what that means is that life is always going to feel a little bit meaningless. You're going to feel like you have to give life meaning. And that is obviously very strenuous as well, right? That takes a lot of energy and mental focus as well. Like, I think a lot of those money, success, affirmations that some teachers are advocating for as a pillar, as a foundational pillar in the morning to set you into the right calibration and the right frequency, they can sometimes be misinterpreted as you having to align yourself with a delusional sense of meaning that life doesn't have already. Like, you have to create this archetype of yourself and then align yourself with that every single morning because it's false, like it's not real. So you have to do it every single morning. You have to go through this morning routine with affirmations, with this and that and so on, in order for you to temporarily hold up this persona throughout the day. Once you learn the spiritual dimension of life, that is no longer necessary. Okay, so you will realize there are in fact things that are real, that there is in fact real meaning to this existence. It's not whatever you create out of life. Life has meaning in itself. The meaning of life is for you to become aware enough to discover who you are, right? That's basically me saying it in blunt terms. But as it says in Tao Te Ching, the Tao that is not, or the Tao that can be spoken of is not the Tao, right? So whatever you or me or anyone else has to say about that spiritual dimension, as to try to contextualize it and conceptualize it, it's never going to be correct. However, it is nonetheless, right? So it is for you to explore. It is very important. And it is for you to build on top of, right? So meaning that whenever you feel like you have that contentment about your spiritual nature, and now it's time to maybe look into other avenues of your life, such as your health, your relationships, your money, well, then you have to always retreat back into the spiritual foundation whenever things become uncertain, or whenever things become uncomfortable, or whenever things become overwhelming, or challenges occur. You always have to check in with yourself. Are you currently connected to that spiritual dimension or not? Right? It has to always remain your top priority. More important than your health, more important than any relationship in your life. That spiritual dimension is what you bring into all other areas of your life. It's what you are bringing into your effort into helping your own health. It's what you're bringing into the relationships in your life. It's what you're bringing into your work and your money and your purpose. Meaning that whatever you want to do in this life becomes infinitely amplified by the degree to which you're connected to your spiritual dimension. And if you already have that figured out, now if you already are someone who has been meditating for a long time, who have gone through this whole cycle of, letting go of the material and then just looking within and focusing on the present moment and the being for an extended amount of time, maybe a couple of years. And you also have looked into your health. Maybe you've started to go to the gym consistently. You are eating healthy. You're very happy about the levels of energy you have and your relationships as well with yourself and other people. Well, then for a lot of people in that we could almost say it's a modality in itself when you have the bottom three pillars checked off. Well, then comes money, right? And a lot of people conflict the idea with money as being a threat to your spiritual connection, right? Because we see a lot of examples of people who started and finished their life here with money. And that meant that they created a lot of destruction in life, because without the spiritual connection, all your actions related to what you do in this world are going to be selfish. They're going to be motivated by fear and greed. And that is obviously very destructive forces. And as someone who identifies with, being spiritual, they're going to want to be the opposite, right? They want to be humble. They want to be giving. They want to be selfless. But that is just a temporary identity you've chosen to carry, because it is up to you to define what that is. You're basing your current understanding of money and work and success in this world based on the examples you've seen in this world. You've never been the example yourself in order for you to really truly know in your heart whether or not your hypothesis is true or not. So you have to complete this pillar yourself while spinning the free bottom plates as well. And then you will know for yourself if that's the case or not, if money truly is an anti-agent to your spiritual connection or not. And the reality is, it's obviously not, right? It is a plus-sum game. There's enough for everyone to go around. You don't have to make money doing things that are harmful to other people. You can make money helping other people. You can make money by taking money out of industries that are harming people and then reallocating them into better things, right? That is making money without harming anyone. In fact, that is making money in a way that is good for everyone. So, and then when it comes to pleasures, again, people who are stuck in this bottom-free paradigm of being very spiritual and very hippie and hey, we're all loving each other and compassion and it's all about health is wealth and all that, well then, and money is greed, and if they think that, then obviously they also are holding themselves back from pleasures, from indulging in, maybe recreational drugs on occasional basis. They have that resistance towards these things. I'm not saying these things are good or bad. This really depends on you and the context. But if you have that resistance, if you have created a dogmatic relationship between you and life, meaning that you have a list of things that you can do and things you cannot do, in order for you to be in that alignment or whatever you call it, actually what you're then doing is that you're losing your spiritual foundation, right? So if you're resisting pleasures of life, you're creating resistance to your own spiritual connection. And then eventually you lose all of it, right? So you have to embrace all 5 pillars or all 4 building blocks of the pyramid in order for you to have a complete inner peace in all areas of life. So get the spiritual foundation right, then get the health right, get the relationships right, get the money and work right, and then enjoy pleasures to the extent that you truly want to. Don't say, no, I can't have that cigarette or I can't that coffee. Ask yourself every single time, do I want that? Does that benefit me? Is this truly what I want? What are the pros and cons? Have an honest conversation with yourself. Don't force anything. Don't feel any guilt about indulging in pleasures you chose to indulge in. Just add awareness to these processes, and most likely that is going to solve the problem for you. Now, simply add awareness. Adding awareness to any process of life is spirituality. Okay? Spirituality is not some belief system or whatever you may believe that it is. Spirituality, your spiritual connection, is simply your level of awareness. That's it. Let's just say that again. Is the only thing that really truly matters is your spiritual foundation in life. All these things on top of it are simply there for your enjoyment, for you to have fun, for you to explore this reality, for you to essentially just have something to do. And also remember that if you want to achieve mastery in any of these areas, start with learning to spin 1 plate at a time. Not 2, not 3, not 100, like most people are doing in today's society. And thanks for watching.